everybody, welcome for this week's episode of the Prophetic Trumpet. We are in the third installment of our series, You Will Be Like God. Now that is taken from Genesis in the garden. Serpent talking to Eve, you will be like God. You will know good and evil. Well, this week we're going to continue to expand upon the premise for this series, and that is this push to replace God upon the throne of humanity. Really, we've come to the point with technology, which has been demonstrated in this series, that quite honestly we are creating at a rate and with technology that we really in our dreams had only been able to acclaim in even 40 years ago. But here we're learning that it's not just a sheep named Dolly that started this whole thing off and where it's actually gone. So this week we're going to hit some very disturbing articles that have been given to us that we have discovered in our research for this series. And we hope that you can begin to see the huge issue here that is being generated as to what it is we're teaching here on the Prophetic Trumpet. Now, the first two articles that we're going to reference came from an X account that would formerly be known as Twitter. A gentleman by the name of Dom Lucre, L-U-C-R-E. Again, we'll have all the links for these respective posts and columns down below so that you can see where I'm getting and deriving all the information from. Now, he claims that on January 29th, 2003, so we're talking, honestly, we're talking 23 years ago, almost to the date, Clonaid, which is the name of a human cloning company, made media headlines when they announced that they had cloned a human baby named Eve, and it was in Israel, and they wanted guardianship. Now, Clonaid made the disclosure under oath at a hearing into whether Florida should appoint a guardian for this child that was in Israel. The judge then basically threw the case out of court, and this gentleman, whose name I'm not sure I can pronounce, Boycelier, I guess, also maintained that under oath that two other cloned babies have been born since Eve's birth. That's a little disturbing. Clonaid was founded by a man who also created the Relayan religious sect and claims that life on Earth was started by extraterrestrials. Oh boy, yeah, extraterrestrials. See, his group logo is a swastika with the Star of David combined, and a logo that even Kanye West posted that initially got him banned from the platform known as X. Now, March 28th of 2001, Clonaid presented their case of human cloning to the 107th U.S. Congress, titled The Issues Raised by Human Cloning, serial number 107-5. March 4th, 1997, President Bill Clinton himself, well, he banned federal government funding from human cloning. But in the United States never banned human cloning itself. And the Relayan headquarters is currently located in Ontario, Canada. Now, Senator John Fetterman's wife went to Ontario after her husband had a stroke, and this is where the cloning allegations started to arise from. Interesting. Now, Dom Lucre again posts that the NFL future Hall of Fame quarterback Tom Brady broke his silence on why he cloned his dog that passed away 2 years ago. He said, "My animals mean the world to me. I worked with Colossal. We spoke on them last week. That's a firm in Dallas, Texas, and he says they leveraged their non-invasive cloning technology through a simple blood draw of our family's elderly dog before she passed," end quote. So this is much more rampant than we thought when we started this series with you and began to implement to you the steps on how far things have gotten. Now, when you go to the Daily Mail, which is a United Kingdom publication, in an article written by Stacey Liberatore, in November 13th of last year. This is pretty extensive, but I'm going to read to you the gist of it. Cloned meat will soon enter Canadian grocery stores without safety reviews or labeling, whereas some Americans have been eating it all along. Health officials recently scrapped a 22-year-old policy. Catch that. 22-year-old policy that classified cloned meat as novel foods, removing pre-market safety assessments and allowing these products to be sold with absolutely, totally no disclosure. The move has sparked surprise in the United States market after it was revealed that similar products have been quietly on United States grocery store shelves for years. The Food and Drug Administration approved meat and milk from cloned cattle, swine, and goats, along with their offspring, in January of 2008. Loved ones, that is 16 years ago. Nearly 2 decades later, many Americans are just now realizing that cloned meat is a part of the food supply. Social media users have reacted with shock and disbelief, calling the situation totally unacceptable. Some argued that if cloned meat is allowed, it must at least be clearly labeled with its origin and production method. Others claimed that they had unknowingly purchased cloned products and suggested the FDA had failed American consumers. Wow, imagine that. A government 3-letter agency failing America. So many Americans oppose cloned meat, according to this article, due to the concerns about animal welfare, food safety, and ethical or religious objections. Opponents have highlighted the high areas of suffering in animals, including health problems, miscarriages, and the lack of antibiotics or hormones, and then those entering the food supply. Ethical objections often include the general unease with the technology and fears that it could lead to human cloning, which we just covered. Even more, cloned meat is not allowed for food production in Europe due to the ban on cloning of farm animals and the safety of products derived from them. The process is to make cloned meat, and it begins with the creation of this genetically identical copy of a desired animal, beef, pork, chicken, that kind of stuff. That is bred through normal reproduction, and its offspring eventually enter the food chain as meat without shoppers having any way to know. Health Canada has planned to roll out the change this very year in 2026. Now, the FDA, which does not have jurisdiction in Canada, has jurisdiction in the United States, concluded that these foods are not materially different from traditional meat and dairy, and therefore no special labeling is required, which is the same reasoning as Health Canada stated. While cloned animals themselves are rare, they're expensive, the health agency expects that it's primarily the offspring of clones that enter the food chain. However, there's no mandatory labeling system in place, as we've stated, meaning American consumers have no reliable advocates, having raised concerns that limited data and the lack of transparency regarding informed choice. They argue that even through the FDA, even though the FDA has deemed cloned meat safe, shoppers are effectively buying meats derived from cloning without disclosure. The Center for Food Safety, said that the FDA's decision flies in the face of massive public opposition to animal cloning, widespread scientific concerns about the risk of eating food from clones, and troubling animal cruelty and ethical concerns associated with the cloning process. The agency unto itself admitted that the own risk assessment that is a vast quantity of animal clones are unhealthy and would not be suitable for the food supply. So in recent years, scientists have cloned other animals. The rhesus monkey named Retro was born less than 5 years ago, July of 2020. That was one of the primates that was not disclosed in last week's episode that I intentionally hid from you all for this week. Now, at this time, there's an investigator at the State Key Laboratory of Molecular Development Technology, or excuse me, molecular biology. That's an Asian name, Falong Lu, I guess is how you pronounce it. And they told the collaboration, or the CNN, we'll just say CNN, the development was a big step forward that has turned the impossible possible. Last year, China became the first country to successfully clone Tibetan goats using the same processes used to clone Dolly, the sheep, in 1996, the first ever cloned animal. Where are we going to? Where the artificial becomes the norm. Isn't that the work of the devil? Now let's go a little bit further. The Wall Street Ape account on X claims this. And apparently there's footage that the Campbell's Soup vice president was caught saying that Campbell's Soups are for poor people and use bioengineered meat. He literally said on a secret recording that the company is using 3D printed meat. This is a federal crime, by the way, and it is illegal under U.S. federal law to sell, distribute, or label lab-grown meat in any way that misleads consumers about its origin or nature. Disclosure is mandatory to prevent consumer confusion, and 3D printed meat is a lab-grown cultured meat, federally Meat Inspected Act and Poultry Product Inspection Act, overseen by the USDA's Food Safety Inspection Service. All labels for cell-cultured meats must be pre-approved before sale, and products can't use terms like meat or chicken without a clear qualifying descriptor such as cell-cultured chicken or lab-grown beef. Simply calling it chicken soup without clarification, yeah, that's deceptive. Isn't that one of the calling cards of the enemy? Isn't lying his native tongue? Didn't Jesus say, be careful that no one deceives you? We're living in the end times, folks. It's all right here. And as we progress through the series, we can see how mankind is accepting the temptation of the enemy. You will be like God, and you will know. We'd like to thank you for joining us for this week's Prophetic Trumpet. Please like and share the message, hit the subscription button, hit the notification button if you want to know when we post. You'll get the latest on what it is that we're dealing with and these incredible end times as we fast forward to the last days. We hope the Lord blesses you, and we will see you next time.